Hello everyone and welcome to my favorite build. Today I'm bringing you Marrow Shards Lich. Marrow Shards is a very strange ability that works kind of weird, but I don't know. I really like it and might as well share it with you guys. You have a complete guide in Maxroll that you can check out, but this is how the build works. So basically, obviously this is a Reaper form build that goes very low life, but it's actually surprisingly tanky. You have a lot of Lich, as you can probably tell, and even without Reaper, and even without Dead Seal, I'm doing 100k crits on enemies. And obviously, if I transform into Reaper and Dead Seal, well, you're gonna see that the crits are gonna be bigger, you know. And if we use we get 400k crits. You know, you can get 500,000 crits easy with this. So how this ability works basically is you have to aim the projectile on the floor, and then the thing that explodes and makes a cone behind it, that's your actual damage. And because of how long range you can do this, thanks to projectile of Marrow Speed, you can actually hit things very far away, making it like a very long range build, which is really nice, especially from playing hardcore or playing hard content, surprisingly. Again, you gotta be careful when you're fighting things that are near to you, because if you just attack them like this, you might not hit them with the splatter, which is the important damage. It's very important that you get familiar and you like aim it at your feet, right? So you hit them with the actual splatter. So you need to basically always predict where the explosion is gonna be, because that's your actual damage. This is extremely good for choke points. Imagine this is a choke point and enemies are coming and you just do this. Well, good luck getting through that, right? You have 2 dashes thanks to Rip and thanks to Transplant at the same time. You have the how is it called? The Mark for Death from Bone Course, and to apply extra ailments, you can apply shit ton of Armor Shred, and because you're a physical damage build, your Armor Shred is actually super effective for your damage. And you obviously try to get crit chance. And one of the rare things about this build is that you can fully utilize rather how is it called, a gate staff. So we can take a look over the guide, but basically this build obviously reperform like we mentioned, and when it comes to skills as passives, we go to reperform classic setup with armor to get tanky, with rip cooldown, a bit of leech, because the build obviously it is very wonky unless you have a lot of leech. Dead Seal for the classic multiplicative damage, and Doomed for extra damage for the actual death wave, as you can see. Then Marrow Shards that we go all for the bone splinters, and you need these 2 nodes for them to behave properly, because you wanna get the destruction wherever you're targeting, so you have good control. You wanna grab all the multipliers possible that affect the splitters. So you have a multiplier there, multipliers there, multiplier here, multiplier there, crit, flat crit, multiplier there. There's so many damage multipliers in this skill that really makes it pay off if you invest into it. Really powerful. Again, for Ripblood, you go for Transplant, sorry, you go for all the bonuses, of course. You go for your cast speed and your haste, and you make sure you get your Bone Course and your kill threshold. And again, the Blood Pools are also really good for just kiting enemies. Really nice setup. I really like it. Really cool. And then from Bone Course, you just want to make sure you get as many hits as possible, so it does extra damage. And to grab the Mark for Death, which makes it so enemies take 25% extra damage. Then we go to you have again additional tips here. If you wanted to get extra survivability, you could spec Aura of Decay for the nodes that grant you percentage missing health. So that way, basically, you know, if you have a lot of health, you're gonna be healing by a lot. But I kind of like going this glass cannon version that just does so much damage. It's so fun. And again, I played this in hardcore, and I pushed this in hardcore, and I've done tier 4s and everything. Like, this is completely playable if you know what you're doing. Just want to make that thing clear. You need to know what you're doing. Again, for passives, the classic, you know, go with full intelligence, cast speed, spell crit, you know, get your 3 plagues for the pen, get mind over body for the extra intelligence, so for giga damage and giga armor when you dead seal and you use Reaper form. And again, you have like always all the skill tree progression, really cool. You have all the gameplay tips. Make sure you stay leeching so you keep up your form. You know, it's really important that you just keep leeching. Again, if you need more tips, there's a lot of tips there. You can get fear on idols, etc, etc. For gearing, as always, you know, we have the section where you get your benchmarks basically, and then we teach you how to get the gear going from literally double tier 5s to double tier 4 tier 5s, also known as tier 20, to, you know, you start sealing and exalting. So a very important thing to mention early on is that you might need a catalyst early on to get good crit chance, but the more crit chance you get on your gear, spell crit chance, you're gonna be able to gear towards a gate staff. The reason why gate staff is so good with this ability is because Marrow Shards has 110 damage effectiveness, so actually every 100 damage that you get, you're getting 110, right? It's like that extra 10%. And it doesn't have a mana cost because it costs HP. So you can actually go and use a gate staff and you don't really care about the mana roll or increased spell mana cost because it doesn't cost any mana. So again, if you get a one that is giving you 122, it's actually giving you like what, almost 140 or 130 something flat damage. So yeah, that is really powerful, you know. Having that amount of flat damage on a build is really crazy. And you know, you have access to these like crazy rolls of crit multiplier and cast speed and etc. that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. Very important to get a bit of cast speed on your build, especially on your gloves and on your weapon, just so the build feels smooth to play, because it has a long animation time. And you know, you could also make use of the new implicits, like the cooldown implicit, etc. That they just released this patch on 0.9. Again, Omnis really handy because again, rolling an Omnis with a Lich is actually pretty easy because necrotic and poison resistance you're getting from your Reaper form. You're gonna be using a lot of implicits that give you resistances, like your Solarum gloves, your Lightning Resist Blessing, your Void Resist Blessing, etc. So rolling a good Omnis is actually fairly easy, just because the only resistance that you really care about is the physical one and the cold one. Like everything else, it's really easy to cap, pretty much. So yeah, for idols, you can get projectile speed for Marrow Shard, chance to fear, health, you know, physical crit or just regular increased crit, HP idols, resistance idols that you might need, etc. Again, you can also get this projectile speed into your chest piece if you want to, but I think it's just better. I think it's better to just go for the Reaper form and the intelligence. But again, if you can get the projectile speed there, it means you have more room for HP on your idols, so keep that in mind. Again, tons of options for gearing this build. Grimoire, especially if you get it with LP, which is fairly easy to do. It's great for the damage reduction, even though it adds necrotic damage to your spells. It's still really valuable, and I still recommend it, but you know, you could go for something else if you wanted. For blessings, very straightforward, you know, you want to go for your crit avoidance, you want to get your shred and your resistances, right? Pretty big damage buff for us, 50%, right? 20% for bosses. And again, extremely powerful, and then later obviously finish with Great Body of Obsidian for the damage, and you know, get your blessings for drop rates according to whatever your needs are at the moment of playing. You got more setups with idols and all the recommended extra idols, etc. And of course, like always, you have the build scaling section that explains literally everything you need to know about the build in terms of scaling damage and in terms of scaling defense. Very deep. I'm not going to go into it too much, but if you want to learn more about the build, you can check it out. And we also recommend you how to deal with the dungeons, how to deal with arena, how to deal with monolith, what your goals should be, etc. And of course, in the final section, you always have this video. You will have this video, and you will always have the loot filter that you can save link as and download. So you can drag it into your folder, your game folder of filters, and just play the build with us and enjoy. Again, Lich is a pretty self-sustained class. It is misleadingly good for survivability, because Reaper form is a second life after all, and the amount of leech and range that you get on this build is unprecedented. It has very good synergies pretty much with any class. It's valuable on playing with any other class that you're playing, mainly because you have access to Mark for Death and you have access to Fear. So you can literally be a curse bot while you're doing a shit ton of damage, and you can act as a DPS. You can, again, apply Bone Curse to all the enemies to apply, so all enemies hitting, all of your allies hitting the enemies are gonna be proccing Bone Curse. You can just like, everyone can benefit from the different buffs, the armor shred, etc. And obviously, this is recommended to be played with other physical builds. For example, Swipe Werebear, or any sort of melee sentinel, etc, etc, right? Any physical damage dealing build is gonna synergize greatly with this. And you know, if you want to get supported yourself, you could play with a paladin that gives you increased damage with sigils, or that buffs your damage with javelin. You can play with a for example, with a primalist that has a Spring and Companion that grants you flat crit chance and spell damage. You could even use Entangling Roots for the spell damage bonus. So there is a tons of possibilities to synergize with other classes and kind of like fulfill that DPS role for whatever party you're playing with. Because again, once your Reaper form is up and your Dead Seal is up and you start spamming your Marrow Shards, the damage is really crazy. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this build. It's very unique. The gameplay is not for everyone, but I highly recommend trying it. Just take a look at the damage, get fun, you know, have fun aiming the cone and the projectiles. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching and enjoy the build.